Welcome to this DIFF Circle event. I'm delighted to be here with Festival Director of Dublin Film Festival, Gráinne Humphreys, Head of Programming at Cork Film Festival, Aurélie Godet, and Director of Programming at the Galway Film Fleadh, Maeve McGrath. I'd love to give a shout out of thanks to Screen Ireland and the Arts Council, and thanks so much to you all for being here. So I'm going to jump straight into the questions, if that's okay. There are three major film festivals on the island of Ireland. What makes each of your festivals different and distinct from each other? Gráinne, could you go first?
Okay, I'll kick off. I'm really conscious that DIFF was set up as an audience festival, and it was set up in 2003. So it's actually the youngest of the festivals, and it was set up by Michael Dwyer and producer David McLaughlin to show films that they just felt weren't getting off shelves in London and putting them on shelves and cinemas and projectors in Dublin. So that was really the idea. It was to try and kind of compensate or amplify kind of Irish cinema distribution back in 2003. And obviously it has its legacy back to the old Dublin Film Festival. I think, you know, obviously any festival changes and evolves over time. I still feel like one of our key drivers is what is possible to screen, what are people seeing, what can we do more of? And so we're very responsive. So I think if you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, it would be very different. You know, even 5 years ago, it would be very different. Yeah. You know, the cultures around cinema going, people have access to. And also, you know, I've changed, which I think is really important. And the programming team, our interests have changed and ebbed and flowed in different ways. And we had a major decision to make after COVID, and we reduced the program. So DIFF is probably, I think, one of the smaller programs in terms of numbers. I think we have about 90 programs and maybe about 140 films, including shorts. So that's quite small. So, you know, in that way, you know, it is quite, I suppose, a kind of bespoke kind of festival in a way. We do include films that are going out on release, and guests are very important to us. We've quite a large number of guests, and we try to put a focus on international. So we try to bring in international guests and some starry guests as well, because we're kind of aware that for our audiences, and there's multiple audiences, that there's people who are coming to the festival since the old DFF days, you know, for over 30 years, who know their Ozon, they know their Tarkovsky, they know their stuff. And then there's people that we're trying to entice for the first time. So I would say that, you know, we're, you know, an audience-facing festival that is trying to look after, let's put it at maybe 3 or 4 main audiences. And in the last couple of years, it's been really a big focus to do young audiences and kind of get the 18s to 25s in.
It's just so helpful, Gráinne, because as a filmmaker, and I hope I speak for everyone here, some of us have more experience, some of us have less. We don't want to make our festival strategy just based on what time of year we're finished our film and what festival is up next. Like, we're really digging into the character of the festival, the programming policy, the kinds of audiences. It is about the audience, exactly as you say, you know, that your festival is attracting is everything for us. So, you know, that I think that's really helpful. Thank you. And Maeve, the Fleadh, the grand old dame.
The Fleadh, so we're 38 years old now, and we're in the summer. So for anybody who hasn't been, it's a July festival. And so the Fleadh takes place alongside the fair. So it's very much industry based alongside that. So it's a great place for people to go, not only with a film, but without a film, to go and meet people as well. So we screen Irish film, obviously, as a priority. From our Irish language is a priority for us. We had 11 Irish language features this year and a Garscanon, a strand of Irish short films as well. So they're very, very important to us. We screen international films, world cinema. Architecture is a really big part in recent years of the Galway Film Fleadh. That was a strand that, you know, I said, I think we need to do, it'd be lovely to do this. And I wasn't sure if it would work. And I said, look, if 10 people come and watch these films, then that's, you know, that's great. And it's really taken off. So that's really nice. It's a new strand we have. But, you know, we want people to come and watch films. We want the audience in Galway. It's really, really important that the Galway audience see films that they wouldn't normally see in the Omniplex, you know, that they can come and to Plus, if Plus still exists next year for us, and the town hall. And, you know, we have obviously our generation, you know, we have Generation as its own festival coming up soon. But obviously we have part of that as a part of Big Fleadh as well. Genre cinema is really, really important to us, you know, late night cinema, and documentaries and narrative films in terms of features are, you know, they're 50-50 for us at the moment. Actually, we do 50% of each, which is great. And of course, the shorts, a big platform for short films, and we are Academy affiliated as well. So I think that's really important for people who are emerging into the short film area as well.
Absolutely. And of course you have the market as well at the Fleadh.
Yeah, so meetings, and, you know, so we've distributors, we've funders, we've filmmakers who will come to that, and, you know, you get paired off, and there's, you know, we have the Fleadh Forum happens on the Thursday. That's really big, you know, great keynote speakers. So for us, it's really important because people who get funding potentially through the market come back, you know, or go to the other festivals, you know, with films that they get funded. So the market lives alongside the Fleadh.
Oh, fantastic. And then Aurélie, I know it's a very exciting day for you because you have just closed your program for this year's edition, which is so exciting and such an achievement after months of hard work. So you should really be in the pub, but you're here. So we really appreciate that. So just to ask you then about Cork, like what would make Cork's program and the festival kind of distinct as opposed to sort of other festivals?
But I want to rebound on what you just said. Thank you, by the way. And celebrations would be during the festival. The club, the festival club, is where we gather every night. It's a welcoming festival. It's warm, and the number of guests is not at the same scale as the number of films, but we host people well. Something important for me. And it is this year the 70th anniversary of the festival, so we're the grandmother in the family, and I wouldn't necessarily have started with that to present our approach and the program, but it is important to look back on the repertory, you know, to appreciate the present, including present film production, and repertory cinema is an essential part of CIF's programming, and I enhanced it slightly this year for the occasion of the anniversary. Important to see the masterpieces of cinema on the big screen, because for me that's part of, you know, our effort, our common effort to light the flame, you know. And so it's an ambitious international festival that aims to represent the variety of everything great made in the cinema world in the year: fiction, documentary, hybrid, experimental. We are very supportive of short filmmakers with a number of strong international and Irish competitive, non-competitive. It's around 100 shorts, which is as many as the features. And it's very interesting to hear Gráinne in terms of, you know, being attentive to trends and being ready to evolve. I arrived only a year and a half ago and programmed one edition. There's already some touch-ups I applied this year because of what I observed, because of what I heard from the audience, because of what I heard from the guests. There is a slightly reduced number of films indeed. It works better probably to give people more replays and more occasions to make their way to the films they are interested in. And so the idea is always also in terms of how you organize these different strands, whether it's by theme or the awards they're eligible to, cast different lights from different angles on the film so that you optimize the attention that people will have for them. And so same principle as hosting people well, we want to host our films well, and that they are noticed and that they are seen by the right people. And so that will always be an object of reflection, of conversation, and of improvements.
Yeah, well, that sounds amazing. And you're right, we're all shared with that, us, the filmmakers, and you guys. We just want to see it on that big screen in the dark room. That, that's the reason we do this. So what kind of films are you looking for each of your festivals? Is there a kind of film? How important is status to you guys? Does it have to be a world premiere? Does it have to be an Irish premiere? Does it have to be a Galway premiere? What is the line on that? And when you're watching, what is it that will just reach out and kind of grab you from the screen and you say, I must have this film, I have to have it, I have to bring it to audiences? Like, what lights your fires? Aurélie, maybe I start with you again, if that's...
Yes, well, it's two very important questions together. So in terms of how you choose the films, and indeed, it's an important question because we're not just a platform to preview films that are about to come out. Like Gráinne said, I curate my program. Some of the films will indeed come out not too long after. Some will never come out in Ireland. And it's your one chance to see them. So it's very important for me that also the audience perceives that it's a curated program, that care was put into putting it together. Criteria are listed in our artistic policy that we worked on this year, and it's not just empty words, it's really what those films would have in common in my eyes, which is authenticity, sincerity, the sincerity of the makers of the film, curiosity expressed in a project, difference, ambition is important to me. Political and historical relevance matter, innovation, storytelling power, of course, by the way, technical craft. So all of those, you see, you develop some form of instinct, and you have some more spontaneous reactions to the films, but these are behind always as a reference, especially, for example, when you doubt, or when you're not completely sure, you like a film, you're not sure, you might like another one better. These are important, how do you call them? Sorry, I'm missing an English word there. Anyway, that would be the reference markers. Yeah.
And it's a great list. That's a
maybe
great.
we can talk about this and then the premieres, because I think there's a whole other discussion.
Yeah. Well, everything you said there, there's also, and you're right, it is two different things. There's excellence in all those, the craft, the story, the ambition, the originality, but together, even sometimes a film can be more than the sum of all its parts. There's just something so special about it. Gráinne, what are you looking for when it comes to programming films? Like what really reaches out and just grabs you as something you must have?
I mean, again, I just, it's really interesting being in a conversation with kind of peers, because you're finding sort of so many points of kind of like similarity. I mean, I would agree, obviously, freshness, that sense of ambition. We watch an awful lot of films. So I think what usually sparks us is somebody who's doing something different, something that's creating an excitement or an engagement beyond the mundane 6 films that we watched before. And I do think we when the lights go down, or the film starts, you start creating an energy and an excitement around what this film can be, that you give them an A, and then the filmmaker has to get to the end without losing that status, if you like. And when that happens, it's genuinely really exciting. What I would say is the trouble is that some of those films you fall in love with, if we're going to use this analogy of falling in love, and then you have to try and secure them. Do you know what I mean? Which becomes a whole different kind of dynamic, and that's when the festival has to start making a case for why they would be the best place for this film to happen. So the other thing I would say is that we see a huge amount of films, we fall in love a lot, but we don't necessarily always get what we want. And that's sometimes a problem. So, there's the one that got away, if we're going to keep this analogy going. Right?
I was just going to say, you and I are both fond of taking an analogy. I was wondering how often you get your heart broken. Like you're like, I must have this film, and you just don't. And all of you must get your heart broken.
It happens. It happens. And in a way, one of the things, just because you mentioned about premieres, is that I did bring in an Irish Premier status into DIFF about 8 or 9 years ago. And it was for a very clear reason. It was to try and to put a formality on the programme for the Irish and the international features and docs, to allow them to decide that if they wanted to partner with us, to collaborate with us on their screening, that would form the next part of their journey. And that would mean maybe a release or going into an international festival, or using the DIFF screening, if you like, as a starting point for their journey, either in Ireland or beyond. And in that way, it was to try and help producers and directors to structure what I think was becoming a bit unruly for us, that people were saying, I've shown it in 6 or 7 different places and now I'm coming to you, and what can you do? And what can you do and what we can do are increasingly difficult in the world that we're living with, and the windows that we're given as well. So in my attempt with that for the features and docs was to try and help to put a formality on it. And to help people. And again, we have a limited number of films, and we're trying to say, we may not be the right time for you. As you said at the start, you may be thinking about doing something in the summer or in the autumn, or you're aiming at an international festival for your world premiere. So to allow people to know that if they were thinking of DIFF, there's a rule that's there to help them, but I know it's annoying. So,
It is, but it can help. And sometimes we all, everyone is chasing the huge world premiere, and the home premiere is so important, because if you have your Irish premiere at one of your amazing festivals and you get a review, or just it generates buzz, or, you actually can get this amazing bounce then internationally, which you might be failing to land otherwise. So it can be a clarifying experience and a really helpful experience for sure. What about you, Maeve? Broken hearts all around?
Yeah, it's a very difficult one, because like the other 2 festivals, space is always at a premium. We're always more oversubscribed on films that we get in, that we see, that that we're looking for, and it is very difficult. Likewise, we do ask for an Irish premiere. We don't need a world premiere. We don't need a European premiere. It's nice if it is. We do ask for an Irish premiere, but we do screen films. I think this year we screened 97 feature films. Let's speak about features. 97 features this year, and we had 11 that were out of competition, and they had already screened in Ireland. So if it's not an Irish premiere, it's out of competition for any of the awards at the Fleadh. That's just a very simple fact. Last year we only had 7 that were not premieres, simply because there's other films we've seen, we love them, we're like, this film's amazing, but actually this film is about to have its Irish premiere. We have only 4 slots a day in Town Hall for features. We've only the rest of our films screen at Plus. We have 2 venues, that's it. It's just, we know 6 days, this is how many films we can screen. If a film is 2 hours long, you want to incorporate then a Q&A post-show discussion afterwards, your space starts to become very, very limited. So I think the Irish premiere status does help, like Gráinne said, that it kind of clears the mind. And actually, I am still amazed about that a lot of people don't know that festivals have a premiere status. It's very common in Europe and across the world, and it is more here, and we're very clear. We have it in our guidelines. If you're submitting to direct submissions through Film Freeway, it's there. We say it. The priority is given to films that are Irish premieres, and look, there are films that get away, that break your heart. And you're like, I'd love that film. I really, really want that film, and it doesn't happen. That's okay, because there's also other brilliant films, that you've watched, and you're never going to be able to program them all anyway. So you have a kind of a bit of a soothing balm, when you say, okay, I can't screen that, but I have this beauty here as well that we can screen.
That you could cuddle up to. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, just never talk about it. Sorry, Claire. No. It's also these are love affairs that you can never talk publicly.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
The one that got away.
Yeah.
But listen.
Sorry.
Hello.
Sorry.
Yeah, go. Sorry.
I might want, because I did not answer the question, that we do the same, that it's the same thing with the premieres. In my case, it particularly comes with the principle, which is that the moment of the festival is only a bit, in, you know, a cycle that starts earlier.
Yeah.
I used to, I can't anymore, but I used to be a reader for Arte at the stage of, you know, financing of the project. So I knew the films as screenplays before they came as candidates for the festivals I worked for 2 years later sometimes. And so you get interested in the films. You can start, you know, showing your interest pretty early on, and be determined that it's a film you're going to want to accompany. And indeed, of course, the moment you present it to the audience is key. And indeed, the preparation of it, as Gráinne said, it's supposed to be something, a step that you work on together, indeed, with the crews, with all the people involved, to optimize it, because there is this short window. But you can start it early on. And indeed, this year, there are a couple of Irish films in the program. We agreed about the Cork premiere in March. And we've had, it was comfortable to have all these weeks and months to discuss a number of things, much more than those who joined, let's say, in August, September. It's true, we had more time to prepare the premiere, and I'm happy to contribute to helping them find the distributors, etc. You know, we're not only about finding you a slot in a program. We're there to help with launching and making the film visible. If we believe in a film, you know, it's a lot of things involved. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's interesting listening to you speak is that there are films that you knew would be in your festival in March, and then of course films that only in August or, you know, more recently made the program. And so tell me a little bit more, each of you, about your timeline and the selection of films, because you must watch so many. You have limited space, you know, with smaller slots, if you like, and more bespoke and very curated. How does it work? Who watches? You know, will they watch multiple cuts? Will they only watch once? How does it progress through the system? You know, can you kind of demystify it for us filmmakers who we don't know when, you know, Maeve, maybe you'd start with that.
Yeah, so we're looking at films now. So obviously the festival's over in July. We opened in September, so we already have films coming in through direct submissions. This is a very, very important part of, you know, our selections, the films that come into us through Film Fleadh from all over the world, including Ireland.
Yeah.
And so we're watching them now. We have a program team, so it's a very small program team. There's 4 of us, and we will all watch films together, you know, and I will watch all the films as much as I can, and then we get recommendations. And so, you know, everybody is watching a different type of film. You know, sometimes they're randomly, you know, we can find films. I'll say, okay, I want you to start watching some of those, and we'll talk and we'll have meetings. And we eventually end up with a long list, really, of films that we feel that we should all be looking at. So then we all watch those. Now, in between this, we're also heading to festivals. So I'm off to Newport Beach next week, and I'll be going to St. John's Festival in Newfoundland as well. So we'll go to, obviously, you know, IFFO, Berlin. We'll go to those festivals as well. We'll be talking to sales agents and distributors all the way along that as well. So there's, you know, it's various different levels that'll be happening at the same time. So we're watching now right through until April of next year.
Would your team have kind of regular meetings, like everyone is watching films, and the next thing at your meeting, people are saying, oh my God, you have to watch this film, or I saw this incredible, you know, and you're having these lovely conversations and you're saying, okay, well, we've got like 500 films and we need to get down to, you know, and is it, I mean, how do you even
all of that and more? And we have live documents, and, you know, I'll get an email from you know, one of the program team going, oh my God, you have to watch this film is, you know, or, you know, I got an email just before Easter last year with one of our program team going, this is your Easter gift, I'm giving this to you because the film is just so amazing. And it really was. I was so excited about this film, and it was so beautiful, and in the end we never screened it. It never got off the long list. And we all adored this film, by the way. It just happens that way, you know. And so it's and as we get, you know, the list gets smaller. And obviously we don't think, people say, oh, you've a team. We actually don't. We, you know, we had football films a couple of years ago, you know, we didn't have those this year. So, you know, if there are films that we find, you know, go into a nice package. We have Peripheral Visions, which is obviously first and second time directors. So, you know, that's an award category. So obviously that's kind of slightly different as well. So we're finding films along the way that will suit them, but we don't have a preconceived idea of what we want going in straight away. We're just loving the films that we're watching, but we stay in touch. We meet, like you say, we have Zoom calls and chats, or in-office chats, depending on where we all are, because we're all over, you know, we don't all, I'm Limerick based, you know, people are in Galway, people are up north. And you know, we then fight hard for our films in the last shortlist. We fight and we, you know, we try, and like that one film, This Is Your Easter Gift, I just couldn't believe that we couldn't get that in, and it broke my heart, actually. There just wasn't room to put it in. And it's not because there's, you know, you say, oh, a better film came in. It's not about that. When you're curating a program for your audience, you know, you're thinking about films that will suit, and it's not always that film which you loved and adored that you feel that you're going to present to the audience. So it's a very layered, you know, process. And, you know, by the end of it, I'll watched every single film. So I know every single film in the program. I've watched them a couple of times, actually. And that's really, really important. And, you know, we're insistent every film is watched, and we watch all the films right through. I hear, you know, you hear stories and, you know, filmmakers talk, but every film is watched, and we adore watching them. And, you know, we go and watch them in festivals, but at the end of the day, we have to get them down to the time limits that we have within 6 days. And that's when the hard work starts.
And when do you close your program? Your festival's obviously July. When is your kind of final few weeks of, oh my God, the gloves are off and you're all fighting for it?
We close features in April, but we're rolling. We do tell people, like, before, you know, if we find films that we say, yeah, that's absolutely going in, we will tell people along the way and have conversations like that. We like to have conversations with filmmakers. We're begging them to come and talk to us all the time. We're saying, please, you know, email us, talk to us, let's have a conversation. Oh, you've a rough cut? Send it over. We want to see it, you know. So, you know, it's very important to us that we see all the films that are out there. Never be afraid to call us and say, you don't want to see it yet. I've seen films that have cut and action in them, you know, and they've made it into the Fleadh, because we just knew that just little view of it. We said, yeah, no, we know where you're going with that. And then obviously the shorts have a little bit longer period of time. They go up to May, and then there's a whole other team for the shorts, obviously led by Holly Buckley, and there's a huge team for those, watching them all the time, and follows a similar format, you know, but obviously they've got up to 40 minutes because the Academy allows up to 40 minutes. So that's a very similar process, but, you know, shorter, smaller.
Well, amazing to know you watch things, because as filmmakers, we always want to make the best first impression with the film. So we're always nervous to send it out. So it's great to hear. And I'll move on to DIFF, maybe, Gráinne. Is it the same process for you? Tell us about the last few weeks before locking the program.
Yeah.
Watch films multiple times, you know, who's making these decisions? How do they progress forward?
Okay, so we would open in April, so we give ourselves a month. And then we're doing it primarily through two probably sort of strands. One is as Maeve has outlined, it's Film Freeway, it's official submissions, they come in. And we also then have festival invites, which are the ones that I would be inviting, or I would be going to I would see at festivals and ask to come. There's three things beyond that. So we have alumni. So we have as Maeve and Aurélie both have, which is filmmakers, including you, whose work we've shown, and we will track you. Do you know what I mean? We'll kind of be aware of what's going on. And you know, it's not like we're sending sort of, you know, kind of urgent emails, but it's just to keep aware of where something you might have talked about. So that tracking piece, I think, flows from year to year, you know. We have a network of friends who are working in other festivals, who we will, you know, always recommend Irish films to them, do you know what I mean, that we might have screened in our festivals, and they reciprocate. I mean, Aurélie, Matt Johnson's film from a couple of years ago, she had seen it for Berlin. I met her and she went, "Oh, this is brilliant, Black Brie." Do you know what I mean? So, you know, just to say to you that there's a formality about film submissions. You know, Film Freeway, pay your money, get your kind of like festival, you know, sort of, you know, submissions made. And then there's also the informal, do you know what I mean, where people are kind of behind the scenes recommending and suggesting. And we have myself and Peggy McHale, our programmer, we do the features and docs, but we are assisted by 12 screeners, a brilliant team who watch a lot of the films that come in through Film Freeway, work in our retrospective. they are amazing, because what we decided that we wanted to do was to bring in people who reflected the kind of audiences that were coming to the festival. So we have a lot of people from diverse backgrounds, certain interests, and that's been really exciting, because to be honest, Claire, they are recommending and shortlisting films that I wouldn't have if I was going through the film freeway. So we've kind of hopefully opened up the kind of opportunities for films from different perspectives to come in and to kind of be shortlisted. What everybody does, to be really simple about it, film freeway, you can grade them. We get to 6, and once you're at 6, you're then shortlisted, and then we'll go through the process again. And as Maeve has you know, aptly described, it's all about then pulling it down and the horrible conversations. My thing is always about people who are early and people who are late. I believe that the world is better early in the morning. Therefore, please submit your films early, because you don't want to see the mental health of the people who are watching films in the last 3 weeks of the deadline for the film festival. And at that stage, you're also just trying to get rid of films. You're trying to find the core that you want to screen. And you may have a film that has a subject very similar to something that's already confirmed. And that's a terrible reason not to be included in a festival. But it's also my plea for filmmakers to know, in the same way as we do, what's out there and what's going on. And if you're working in a genre, or you've got a particular subject that you are interested in, is to be aware of maybe somebody else who's doing something similar, and either steering in the other direction or getting in before them.
Yeah, early is okay, good to know. And what about you, Aurélie? Is it the same?
I was doing this a lot. I recognize a lot what we do in what Gráinne said, and also Maeve, I think Gráinne complemented what you said earlier about turning down a film you love. And that's indeed often because sort of that slot's taken already, or so, you know. And in terms of the process, exactly what Gráinne said, the formal and informal, and in terms of how we handle the submissions on Film Freeway. So we have close to 20 viewers. We had close to 5,000 submissions. We had 5,000 submissions this year, so I can't humanly watch them all myself. We do have someone in charge of the short films, but I also got involved in all the shorts in the program I saw, and I debated with him. So it's important for me, but I didn't watch them all. And so what I did is I had conversations with the viewers, I don't know, sorry, how do you call them, early in the season, both to tell them, to give them some directions, but of course, as Gráinne said, you got to also use their opinions to shake up you don't want to settle into habits, right? And to always go for the same things. It's something dangerous. It's something I really work on. I've done this for 15 years. And so you don't want to do the same every year. And to always go for the same things. You do want other people's opinions. You do want contradiction. You want food for thought. You want to challenge your, to have safe first impressions of a film is also something you develop. It's a skill you develop, but together with the ability of being still able to, you know, think about it and hear opinions and discuss, right? So all of this is both, it's important to have the process in place. It's important also to have your programming structure clear. And it's the first thing I did when I joined is 2 months work on the program organization, so that indeed, you know, at one point what you're missing and what you're focusing on that you're still missing. There are strands last year that were closed first, that was this year last for various reasons. But so then at one point, it's about putting the puzzle together. It's about balance, it's about diversity. And indeed, if you arrive late, those pieces are fewer, right? The open slots. Because it's important for the audience to have that choice, but also clarity in how to find the films that they will love.
And this is a question sort of on behalf of all us filmmakers. Like, what do you need from us at either submission stage when we take part? Like, is there anything we're not doing? Is there anything we can be doing better? Like, what is music to your ears? Is it an amazing director statement? Is it, what's that, a mixed metaphor? You were reading music to your ears. But anyway, is it, you know, a cover letter that just something so authentic jumps out? Or is it all just the film and we don't need to kind of even think about those other pieces, if you like, when we're kind of applying to your festivals? And Gráinne, maybe I'll start with you.
Okay, well, I'm going to say good pictures. I'm sorry, but you know, we have catalogs. We have websites. We're trying to find an audience for you. So please give us an image that an audience of any kind would respond to.
Yeah.
No pictures of, you know, people walking down country lanes from behind. That's my least favorite. But
note to self.
it's genuinely, it's like if you know, it's the last thing people think about, and it's the first thing that everybody in the marketing department and everybody trying to put a poster together thinks about is what is the image. So if you've done that, you're already there. A good title, I know it sounds really boring, but a good title really helps. If you're trying to kind of be the portal between the film work and the audience. And for filmmakers, if you can be energized, if you can be honest, if you can say yes, if you turn up and you have a way of connecting what you see the film as being about and what the festival can bring. So, you know, if it's specific about a subject, if there's people that you think that would be good, that would be talkers, we try to do 2 kind of big sessions with our filmmakers before the festival, one before the launch and then one before the actual festival. And those kind of online pieces are where we present to you what we're doing. So our marketing plans, our PR plans, what we're thinking about in terms of kind of the structure of the screening itself, Q&As, red carpets, all of those things. And what we want is we want to have, as you know, my sister would say to her 8-year-old, you know, listening ears. And we want you coming back saying, great, this is who we can bring to our red carpet. This is what we can do to help you with PR. We will do every panel that you have. We are all, I don't know about, I know Maeve and I think Aurélie, you have a relationship with Screen. You know, press is tricky, you know, so we need to know that when we're proposing, you know, one of our films, that the team are absolutely galvanized to do it. And then if you're trying to launch your film, both Irish or internationally, that you've got all the materials that you need to do that. And that could be social media materials, you know, websites, that you have the energy to talk to every festival programmer that we bring. Do you know what I mean? You're going to keep doing that. You're going to still be there at 10 o'clock at night, you know, handing out materials and talking about where you'd love to see this film going. Yeah. That's what I would love. Do you know what I mean? If people bring that. Now I know my team are going to go, oh my God, that's overwhelming. But I think we're on the same team together. Filmmakers and festivals, we're trying to do the same thing, which is advocate. Do you know what I mean? For a film. So if you can recognize what we can do and what you can do, we can maximize that.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all trying to get the audience's attention, really. Maeve, what about you? What?
At submission stage, I love a good cover note because, you know, if you give me information in there, you know, I had a great architecture film last year. It had just come in from Germany, but the director was Irish. I wouldn't have had a clue, you know, if he hadn't put it into the cover note. So which was great. We actually ask questions. We have about 5 or 6 questions now on a custom form that we do ask because we really need that information. Is this, you know, a first feature? Is it, you know, questions like that? What's the gender of the director? Things like that are really important for us. They're important for reporting. And so we get you to do those at submission stage, and they're really, really helpful for us. When it comes to you're selected and you're in the festival, you will get an email from us, which will connect you to Eventville, which is our platform like Film Chief for all of those that we just keep everything in there. And we'll ask you to fill out a form, and we are at pains. Every year we sit down and go, okay, what can we get out of this so they don't have to actually do we need that? No, we don't need that. Do we need that? So we really want to make it as simple as possible for you to, you know, to send in what the information that we need. But again, mirroring what Gráinne said, we really need good images, and please give us the images we ask for. You know, we will say very clearly what we want. We'll give you the size, you know, everything. We'll say we want it like this, and we will get a slew of images that have nothing to do with the one we've asked for, and we end up going back and asking you again. So I would say read the email that's sent out, and then read it again and read it again, because we will still now be asked for laurels. Even after the festival's over, we're still being asked for laurels that are in the email. You know, the link is in the email that we sent you at the very first time. It's also in every piece of information that we give you going forward. We always ask you to put the name of your film in the subject line. It helps us a lot, because the people who are doing maybe marketing or who are doing tech don't know your film as well as we do. And so, you know, you're writing to say, oh, I want, you know, to do this. And we always say, look, if you put the name of your film in, they can find you, and they can come to me or to one of the team and say, oh, this film is having difficulty with XYZ. We would say also, directors, please tell your cast and crew that your film is in the Fleadh. You know, producers, please tell your directors that the film is in the Fleadh. You know, cast. We get emails right after the launch where people go, oh my God, I had no idea. I'm in that film. Can I come along? You know, and it's such a simple thing. And also the person that may be doing fun for you or whatever, please make sure you monitor that email. This is so important. I was chasing a children's film last year that I got an email after the Fleadh was over eventually, because they said, oh, that person left, and you know, they weren't getting our emails. We really wanted that film for Saturday morning, and the emails were coming back, we were ringing, nobody was answering. So make sure you keep that contact, and one person fills out the forms, please. You know, we often get a lot of people will come back and say, that's not right, you know, the producer put that in and they shouldn't have put that in. There's a lot of that happens. It really does. I know it's actually torture at times. We say to you, please give us a trailer, but we don't want a YouTube link. We don't want a Vimeo link. We don't want anything like that. We want an MP4, whatever it is, a file of the trailer, because we put it on our own social media, on our own places, you know. And if you haven't made a trailer, really seriously think about it. They're great for us, for social media. They're great for getting the message out, and you get a chance to be in our trailer, which is like really, really nice as well. And if you don't send it into us in time, you're just not going to get in, no matter how many times you ring us afterwards saying, can't believe I'm not in the trailer. Well, you never sent us the trailer in time. So like, we'll give you those dates, we'll give you all of that. Try and stick to it, and just call us or email us if you can't do it, and we'll say, right, okay, we'll give you another day or whatever, and we'll try and make it work for you. But everything will usually be in that email any of these festivals will send you, and it's really about reading it and following up with that.
Do you know, and you're so right. And as a filmmaker, that email is often, it's so dense, there's so much in it. I've literally had to print it off and get a highlighter and go, okay, date we can announce.
Yeah.
Back, like, because you do this all the time. You know exactly what you need and when you need it, so it is all in there. But I also know from the other side, you're like, oh God, that's a very long email.
I know.
Star that. And I'll go back.
I know.
It's all in there. It is absolutely all in there. What about yourself then, Aurélie?
I'm very grateful to Gráinne and Maeve to cover all these practicalities. I would add one, which is that for me, the filmmaker statement is secondary, and especially please no long ones, because we explain how short on time we are. What I want from you is a good film. And that's it. Really, I'm not... and I'm also going to answer the question I just saw pop in a Q&A, because which is Screen Ireland supported film priority of some sort? And the answer is no, and it's no to other kind of course, you get visibility if you're accompanied by a producer who's gonna indicate this film exists and it's worth our attention. Same for sales agent, an Ireland, UK distributor. Yes, they're going to bring your film to us in a way that makes you gain steps. But as I said, we're not just a launch platform. I curate. I'm looking for good films. The pedigree matters in terms of if you're very famous filmmaker or have a famous cast, you're going to be probably in a bigger screening room, and it's probably going to sell out. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to take the newcomer coming out of nowhere, and I'm going to stand no form of pressure. And I'm secure. I'm secure enough. I've done this for many years, and so that that's your answer. It's all the films are equal, it's quality according to the criteria we discussed before.
And a 20-page essay on the origin of the film wouldn't go down that well. Is that kind of what you're saying, basically? So look, I'm going to jump to the Q&A in a moment. I have one more question and, oh, okay, people are popping in already. So I'll jump straight to the attendees' questions. Is there scope to get feedback about your film not being selected? So Aurélie, maybe over to you.
Say that again, sorry.
Is there scope to get feedback about your film not being selected?
Sure. So can't do it to everybody. I gave you the numbers earlier. We do respond to email though. Again, not necessarily in constant flow, but in an organized way. We look at those messages and we give answers. Yes, of course. And the reasons are various, and so it's indeed a case by case. But generally, there's an answer. It's not random, so there would be an answer. We have a secretary who can gather these messages, and we, of course, right now for our festival is not a good time because we are now preparing and we're really, really, really overwhelmed with work. But at one point, the conversations, we're not in a bubble. We're in the world. We're in an industry, and where the communication is supposed to flow, and so conversations are welcome and open. Yes.
And maybe a better time to ask that, or ask for some conversation, would be after the festival. Then, is that what I'm getting?
Well, as I said, we open submissions in January, so there was plenty of time through the season, maybe to. Some people were asking us, I submitted a few months ago, maybe I have other options, etc. We do respond to those messages. Of course, the majority of them, if they are sent all at once at the end of September, then yes, the timing is a bit more awkward, but listen, we try is the answer.
Yeah.
Whatever humanly is possible,
It's possible.
right? Because this whole thing is based on respect, right? We respect you as a filmmaker, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. So I do think of these people who receive these responses, and it matters to me. And I'm sorry that a lot of those are negative, but it does matter to me. Yes.
Yeah, of course. And Gráinne, what about DIFF? I'm going to ask you both questions here, if that's okay, that have just popped. And just for anyone else in the attendees, please fire in your questions. We've still got just over 10 minutes, so plenty of time. So Gráinne, first question is it true that Screen Ireland funded films get priority in your program? And the second one is, if your film isn't selected, can filmmakers get feedback from you or a member of your team about why not?
Okay, so the first thing is no. We do show Screen Ireland shorts, and we have done that for many years. So we will take the new programme of Screen Ireland shorts, which have premiered at Galway and Cork, I think. So we take them for their Dublin premiere. But everything else, exactly as Aurélie outlined, fights its own corner, and to be honest, fights for its place. Obviously we are, as I said, the youngest festival, but in a way we have probably grown maybe the number of Irish films, but we're also very conscious that it's nothing like the same numbers that the other two festivals have. And we're at the beginning of the year. Where we come is very close to the Berlinale, to Sundance, and sometimes people are talking to us about titles that I'm not sure they know where they're going with it. So but no, the answer is everything as Aurélie explained for Cork is the same. It fights for its place. And the feedback is really interesting because we actually started doing film clinics about 3 years ago, and it's basically kind of an offer to filmmakers. I'll watch their film and give them kind of feedback on it. The only criteria is that it's not a film being submitted to DIFF, because I can't do that. But we have started offering people for about 4 years now, if they want an early decision, and we're happy to do that, because obviously, we open in April. We're not making a final decision until November. So if people want to decide early, so we will do that. We can't do it for everybody, but we will do it for, as Aurélie outlined, for as many as we can. If people ask for feedback, and this is what our screeners and the programming team focus on, is having notes that can be, in the case of a request, shared with filmmakers. So, you know, that's what we are trying to do, is to evaluate the film and be able to then share it if that's requested. And we do those calls, and they are really hard. And calls with filmmakers when you're not taking their film. It does require both sides to understand that this is a difficult, if we're coming to the end of the session, we can call it the breakup call, but it is, you know, it is where you're saying, in my opinion, this is not a film that we are going to show. And you have to then back that up, justify it. It's Aurélie said, sometimes you could say it's because you've been doing it for a very long time. Sometimes you get that right, sometimes you get it wrong, but you're in that role. You've colleagues around you can interrogate that with. But I would say we need films. It's in our job, it's in our titles of our organizations. So it's not based, it's based on one film. The next film, you know, could be a different situation. So please don't see it that, you know, it's the end if you don't screen a film or there's a discussion around why it wasn't screened. It should be that this film was not a fit for the festival that we're programming, which I have multiple different rationales why not. And you may have a film the next year or already in train that's absolutely perfect, you know. So I would say that if you can understand the dynamic of that kind of rejection or feedback conversation, you know, it should be around moving forward, hopefully. You know?
Yeah, and a long-term relationship, of course.
Exactly. Long-term relationship, Claire, not a breakup.
No, of course. Yes, we're still in the analogy. Maeve, what about the FLA? I'll just give you the two quick questions. Is it true that Screen Ireland funded films get priority? And B, can filmmakers get feedback from you and your team if they're not selected?
Yeah, so no, if you've a Screen Ireland funded film, it's not automatically going to go into the FLA. We watch every film independently. Actually, we'd 45 Irish films this year, and only 15 were Screen Ireland funded, actually. Pretty much the rest of them, we'd a couple of Arts Council funded and some Northern Ireland Screen, but the rest of them are all independently funded. You know, they didn't go and brilliant films, you know, in their own right. So it's not having funding does not mean that you don't get into the FLA. In fact, you know, we're eager to see films, and you know, we talk to people at Screen Ireland funded films, and actually we talk to a lot. It's not Screen Ireland that necessarily come to us, it's the filmmakers, you know, come to us and submit their films. So whether it has Screen Ireland funding, we do, as you say, screen the Screen Ireland shorts in the FLA. And for us, in terms of giving feedback, that can be very, very difficult, because some people are very, very upset when their film doesn't get into the festival. And I've had emails in the middle of the night, you know, saying, you're the worst person in the world, you know, how dare you not select my film? And it can be really upsetting, actually. But that's part of the job. And, you know, and I will always write back, and I will always say, actually, you know, your film, and I'll give them information about it. You know, it's not because your film isn't a great film. Your film might suit another festival. There maybe wasn't room. Maybe there wasn't, you know, this wasn't a film that was suitable for us. It may have screened elsewhere, you know, which means that, you know, it goes down the pecking order a little bit more. And so there's many, many reasons. I have difficult phone calls with people, you know, and we do give feedback where we can. Now, it gets really difficult with the shorts, because there's so many shorts come in from all around the world, and it can be very, very difficult giving feedback. We try to write a really nice, you know, feedback to you saying, look, this is why it's not a place for everything at FLA. You know, some people get upset even if they're selected and they're not in town hall and they're in Plus, and we're like, you know, where we put you should not determine, you know, the quality of your film. Brilliant films screen across all the venues. Brilliant films do not get selected equally. So it's very difficult whether you're selected or not selected. Actually, people can, you know, be upset for many reasons. And it's actually very, very hard, because, you know, this film that somebody's made, it's, you know, they've spent so much time on it, years. It takes years for films to come to fruition. And because we can't find a place for it at the FLA, doesn't mean that that film won't find a place somewhere else. And they absolutely will. And, you know, we have had films that actually have submitted 1 year, didn't get in, submitted another year, didn't get in, but actually got in on the 3rd year. And it's, you know,
Oh, wow, really?
they went back to
Yeah.
the drawing board, and they
Great.
did
Yeah.
work on it, and they, you know, edited it and did stuff. And you're picking up the phone then and ringing someone saying, guess what, you know, this is the year, because it didn't work possibly for previous years, and they went back maybe and, you know, did different things. I've had films that have completely changed their names, and they have been completely different films. So it's a very difficult thing, the feedback one, because even when you give constructive feedback, people can be very, very upset. And, you know, it's not because we don't value your film, we really, really do, but it just maybe isn't right at that particular time for the Fleadh.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a very quick status question. Irish premiere status for you guys, is it all Ireland or just in the Republic?
All Ireland for me.
So it can't have
For
been
the Fleadh, it's all Ireland.
all Ireland.
No, it's all Ireland for us.
Yeah. And for you, for Cork, the same?
I'm gonna say it's complicated. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This really relation to
really
reality is
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but also I'm not Irish. I'm still learning. I'm gonna have the modesty of saying that we were still discussing this with our peers of Belfast very recently. And there are films at SIF that are screening there. They would not be in competitive sections. They are minority. We are defining the way we can collaborate, knowing that Belfast Film Festival is 2 weeks before us or a week before us.
Yeah.
We have to be intelligent about this. They're also very far away. I went to Belfast in June to Docks Ireland, not very convenient. You don't just take your weekend from one city to go to the other to see a couple of films. So just, yes, the Irish premiere, like Gráinne explained very well, is important for a number of reasons, including, you know, take your premiere seriously and work with us on it, okay? You're not just sending your film all over, okay? We want to do something that is going to be an important step for your film's life. But in terms of Northern Ireland, there are ways in certain strands and along certain in certain situations to be in Belfast and SIF.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Could I just add, because I've just remembered we have Real Art, which is our Arts Council funded kind of art documentary strand, and we have for many years been the launch pad for that strand. Yeah. And it just that is an Arts Council funded scheme. But it just struck me as I was listening to Aurélie and Maeve that a really important piece of advice that I would give to anyone who's listening to this, who's thinking of applying to any of the 3 festivals, go to the festivals. You know, I mean, obviously you've heard us talk about our festivals and our events in comparison and alongside each other, but nothing is as good as actually going and sitting in the cinema and looking at the audiences that are going to the kinds of films that we consider to be the ones that we wanted to screen. And for somebody who comes to me and says, I was at the screening last year in this cinema of that film and I liked what I saw, that to me is somebody who's thinking about what they want to do with their film. They're thinking about what they want and where they need to go, you know, and I think that's kind of crucial, you know, to my mind, for a person trying to think about where to screen. Don't do it in a kind of, this is where it was 10 years ago, you know, or I went when I made a short 5 years ago. Things change, so please try and stay current, you know.
Yeah. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so I'm just going to ask the question that popped up next. And not only did she close her program today, but Aurélie was also answering questions in the Q&A. So I'm only going to put this to Gráinne and Maeve, 10 out of 10 Aurélie. So as programmers, Maeve and Gráinne, do you find yourselves more compelled by a film's emotional truth or by the freshness of its form? And this is a question from Zoe, and she's saying, I'm curious if there's ever a moment where a film's vulnerability can actually outweigh its imperfections, where feeling trumps kind of finesse or polish. So if something is so raw, emotional, beautiful, but maybe not technically. This is, Zoe, I hope I'm just saying this right, but you know, may lack a little finesse here and there or polish.
Well, I'm going to go for the emotional, but I would go for the emotional because I'm really old now. And I kind of feel like I want to help. I want to support people to, you know, to make films that connect with audiences. And I want to see more films that create a kind of an emotional engagement with an audience. Colleen Kuhn, everybody was crying. There is no better sensation than an audience laughing. I know we've seen it in Preston Sturgis, but it's true. So could everyone stop making really long films about poverty and pain that just leave everybody shattered? You know, so I would go with that in a heartbeat, because if you can get an emotion from an audience that you can't bottle, that's priceless, you know, and particularly people who want to, you know, audience awards are really, I think, a really vital thing as well. If you can connect with an audience, it's amazing how you can connect with an audience around the world. You know, a critics prize or a competition prize can only be given by 5 people or 4 people on a jury, but an audience award can really kind of resonate. And I think the emotional films that Sophie's suggesting are the ones that would work particularly well in that way. But that's me, you know.
Yeah. What about you, Maeve?
Yeah, I think we've had films that are just, you know, that are not perfect, but that have something really, really special in them that you go, oh, I see what they're trying to do here. You know, I absolutely see it. And I'm left thinking about that film afterwards, for a long time afterwards. And this films now, which I won't name, that I can think of that I've seen over the last few years, that we've screened over the last few years, that, you know, may not, you know, they've probably had not had a lot of funding, that we've, you know, have just been, they stay with you and they live with you, and you know, it's in the telling of that story, not necessarily, you know, how perfect everything is, you know, in terms of grading or whatever. And it's really, really important for me that those films are seen. You know, whether they're by emerging filmmakers or, you know, very, very experienced filmmakers, it's very, very important. And it's really interesting how the audience pick up on those. It's really interesting how people who review the films, actually, they get a little note afterwards, you know, to say, and that film that I saw, you know, which leaves you, you know, gobsmacked or just thinking about something. So I would say, yeah, the emotions, that's something inside of you after watching a film, that they've done something new, that not necessarily, it may not be perfect,
but it works.
Perfect enough for us to screen it. Yeah, absolutely.
And generally, the person who made the film knows when it works.
Yeah.
That special something, that kind of spark of magic, I guess, whether it's there or it's not. Well, we're after 7, so I'm really sorry to anybody whose question I didn't get to. That was the most fantastic, insightful panel. I want to thank our panelists so much. A festival director and head of programming of DIFF, Gráinne Humphreys, head of programming at the Galway Film Fleadh, Maeve McGrath, and head of programming at the Cork International Film Festival, Aurélie Godet.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much, Claire, for a depth sharing of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gro. I also have a note here, thanks Screen Ireland and the Arts Council, so I won't forget that. And I really want to give a shout out to, there is another DIFF Circle event coming up really soon on the 21st of October, and it is Feature Film Festival Strategy. So actually this should really hopefully complement everything we've talked about tonight. You have had an insight into how programmers think, you know, the process, what they're looking for, what really resonates. And so as you prepare to launch your feature film, this will be a perfect place to plan, take everything you learned tonight and apply it to your strategy. So thank you all so much. I hope you guys found it useful. It was a real pleasure chatting to you guys. I've personally screened at all these festivals and I know what an amazing experience it is. It's such visibility. Their audiences are fantastic. So yeah, and apply early. That was my main takeaway. Apply early. So thank you, everybody, and good night. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Claire.
Bye, guys. Bye.